So this is a video tour focusing on Carol Conde and Carl Beveridge's photo series, Art is Political, from their AGO collaborative exhibition, It's Still Privileged Art, from 1976. I will also be focusing on the criticism it received for its political agenda situated in the AGO, which is an institution that showed, and still kind of remains to show, conservative values. So Carol Conde was born in 1940 in Hamilton, and Carl Beveridge was born in Ottawa in 1945. They worked in Ontario as artists until they decided to move to New York City in 1969. This had a huge impact on their art practice, as they were exposed to conceptualism, the dematerialization of the art object, performance and body art, as well as Andy Warhol's films. Their reputation while they were in New York grew internationally as minimalist and conceptualist sculptors. This was very exciting for folks back home in Ontario, especially in the art scene. So Raoul Nasgard, who was one of the curators at the AGO at the time, hoped to capitalize on their growing success and commissioned them to create a collaborative exhibition in January of 1976. Conde and Beveridge agreed and sent their proposal to Nasgard, which consisted of sculptural works that question materiality, perception, and line. However, the exhibition, It's Still Privileged Art, surprised the Canadian audience with its thoroughly political agenda and different artistic approach. So instead of including their sculptural works that they had promised in their first proposal, Conde and Beveridge plastered banners across the walls, saying art must become responsible for its politics, and culture has replaced brutality as a means of maintaining the status quo. So alongside these banners were photo series similar to Art is Political that combined photographs of Conde and Beveridge with text. They also included a cassette of interviews with Ontario College of Art students, as well as a supplementary exhibition catalog. So what is so interesting about this particular photo series, Art is Political, is that it really depicts the transformation of their artistic approach from conceptualist sculptors to community-based activists. In the first panel, you can see Carol on the ground still focusing on sculptural works, but as the panels progress, you can see them starting to communicate with the community, and in the last panel, they are addressing the viewer. So, in these series, they appropriate Soviet and Chinese worker poses in an attempt to democratize their art. So this relates to their exhibition catalog, which was created in the style of Chinese comics to document the artists' questioning of the underlying assumptions of an institutional art practice. So these catalogs displayed everyday activities from studio production to interactions with collectors and curators, as well as raising their children. So the catalog truly shows art as a social practice and raises questions of the competitive, individualistic, gender inequality, and cultural revolution found within the art scene. So this entire exhibition was an attempt at producing art that brought up issues of gender, class, identity, and community into an institutional space without necessarily relying on art speak or the language of the connoisseur, but that of political activism. Now, unfortunately, due to this break in conventions in form and content, the exhibition was met with incredible hostility and silence. Post-exhibition, Conde and Beveridge's photo works and banners were basically banished to the AGO's archives, never to really see the light of day again until Wanda Nanabush's implementation of Art is Political in Tributes and Tributaries. Now, its prominence in this show is due to the work's relation to one of the first big moments in AGO history that really questioned and challenged what an institution could be and what kind of artwork it could show. Looking into the archival material from the exhibition, It's Still Privileged Art, gives a behind-the-scenes look at how the AGO and its players was functioning in the 70s. So these archival materials also display how the director, W.J. Withrow, dealt with the negative press and the reactions from very important patrons and donors to the AGO. What I came across in these archives were angry letters addressed to Withrow from patrons, donors, and members, along with his responses, a contact sheet of the original installation of the exhibition, a draft of Condé and Beveridge's exhibition catalog, and promo cards that directly address Condé and Beveridge's beliefs as artists working within an institution. So the letters from the upset patrons and donors criticized the artists for their call to social revolution as a transparent theme of their exhibition, and who were genuinely underwhelmed and personally offended by the exhibition's subject matter. A review by one critic also condemns the exhibition as a vapid and gullible recycling of someone else's propaganda. This letter in particular is from the director of the AGO, W.J. Withrow, and it is addressed to a very important AGO donor. The letter is an attempt at consoling this donor, and within it he agrees with the donor on the crude nature of its still privileged art. He also promises that the upcoming exhibitions at the AGO will be relatively conservative and Catholic in nature. Basically, that they will coincide with the donor's perceptions of what he believes should be on display in an institution the size and scale of the AGO. So this ties back into the Massey report, which is what Condé and Beveridge are directly trying to confront within this exhibition. Despite this, I think it should be noted that the curator, Roel Nasgaard, who commissioned Condé and Beveridge, has mentioned in interviews that he really appreciates the transformation of Condé and Beveridge's works. He believed that their original proposal would have been inappropriate, as the road of conceptualist and minimalist art had become exhausted. So post-exhibition, Beveridge and Condé moved back to Canada a year later, and they begin to reject working within institutions and the art scene. So this greatly marginalizes their work. However, they begin to create art that really becomes responsible for its politics. They did this by initiating a series of community arts projects with a focus on developing collaborative works within the Canadian labor movement. They wanted to directly affect problems with living conditions, wages, gender inequality, and identity, and wanted to give these communities a voice, communities that usually had zero cultural elite. So the future works of Condé and Beveridge begin to chip away at the perception that art is inaccessible and elitist, and seek to recast a cultural equation that usually consists of the rich attending art galleries and the working class watching television, with the production of an artwork that can be equally at home in an art gallery and on a wall in a union hall. So with their work post-exhibition, Condé and Beveridge have made the local art scene and trade unionism into a conceptual space of cultural democratization. So this kind of brings to question, is there room for political activism in the AGO today?